Somehow I find myself on this cursed earth with very little slow motion options to choose from. I don't know how that agreement went when I came through a star, or however I got here. I was like, you sure that there's going to be a bunch of slow motion options for me when I'm 19? There wasn't, but there's one camera that is leading the industry, and 480 frames per second is the only one. And we have it.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
We're on the Blackmagic OG with the Leica 8-18. Dare we dream that? Ah, shit. So we've had 120 frames for a long time. I remember little point and shoots like the Panasonic LX7 or something. I almost got that thing. I saw some footage of ants. I was like, wow, oh man, I need that in my life. I had none of it. It was a long time. What was my first slow motion camera? The Sony X3000 was the only, nope. The Canon SX50 had 240 frames, but it was like 240p resolution. It was usable. I used your mom once. I remember showing my mom that footage and she was like, wow, I can't believe like they're bouncing around. It looks like there's no gravity, and like there actually isn't. She didn't know that our Earth was flat and gravity didn't exist, but that's here neither now or there. That's not. But now, my friends, if you want to win at life, you need 480 frames per second, my friend, and we have it. Is the image quality cinema-like? It isn't. It's always clipping or terrible, but we have 480 frames per second. Now, some camera manufacturing morons are like, why would you ever need that slow? It's like 120 frames, that's the mainstream, that's good enough for most people. It's like little Oliver asking, can I have samosa? He needed more. He was hungry. I'm hungry for frames. Give me my frames. This walking by some woman with a dress was a nothing moment in real time. It was just like, get out of my way, miss. But like when you slow it down, it's like magical fabrics in the breeze. Did Jesus make that dress? He might have. It's like, wow. Imagine a swan flying by in the shot. He would fit. I would find room in the Rula once. So the only camera that I can find that actually does 480 frames that isn't a phone with gimmick fake 480, unlike my Huawei P40 Pro, which is superior to this. It does more, 960 in HD, but like half a second burst. It's fun. It's fun to get that half second. Wow, what did I get this time? It's the little Akaso Brave. I've had it for many years, actually. I tried to give it away to one of you jabronis, but none of you deserved it. So let's look at more footage. Now, is it gonna blow you away? Is it like, wow, that's so amazing. Is that on full frame or what? Like, no, it looks cheap, it's nasty, it's a tiny sensor, and it crops in quite a bit. But we're talking unlimited recording, 480 frames per second in 720p resolution, and like big companies like Gopro and DJI aren't doing this. How is little Akaso in a native island north of China? I'm guessing. How are they doing it? Here's the GoPro 11 on the bottom, and whatever happened to that exposure on the top with the Akaso Brave, but there's 480 frames per second versus 240, but the GoPro does it in 2.7K, and I'm doing it in 0.7K, and it's pretty painful. It's not very good. So no, it's not even close to as good quality as even the GoPro, which isn't great quality itself, but it's better. It looks like I can stand up there longer. Like, look how strong he is, when in reality I immediately dropped on my ass. It was quite painful, actually. So it's like, it looks like a gymnast on your right, and the guy on the left is just like clumsy alcoholic. But the slower the better, I'm telling you. Just the slower, the more magical the movements, the more details you see. Something, I don't know why I'm framing it top to bottom like that, but that's how it had to be. It's how it had to be, and it works. I don't know why Akaso overexposes everything no matter what in this mode, but it does, and I don't know if I can fix it. If I can put exposure compensation down as Bigfoot emerges from the forest, then it would look somewhat more respectable, but that's what makes it look cheap, the low dynamic range. And it's like, okay, whatever, man. We do what we have to do in life to get the shots we need. You just have to get creative with your post-production color grading, and no matter what, you'll find a way. That's all I know. This little Chihuahua dog, he snarled at me. I was like, oh, that's gonna be such an epic shot, but he was like barely in the frame. And then as I got closer, he was like, oh no, he's big and he's not leaving. He called my bluff. I snarl, but I mean no pain to him. So I love doing the slow motion street videography, and the slower the better. 240 is enough. You get these magical moments, but it's just like, let me take you back to the Fuji XS20 review. This was a nothing moment. A punk rocker cyclist in camel gear sped past this old man like they didn't make eye contact. There was no moment, but when you slow it down, it's like, wow, the youth, the young punk rocker is surpassing the older man on foot. Look at our technology now. Wow, the apocalypse versus the old 1950s. It's like so many fun things happen in slow-mo, like that woman who tried to kill me with the mace. She was like in a crowd, and then she glanced over at me. She looked up into my eyes. I wasn't looking at her because I was terrified. And then she looked down at my camera, and since I wasn't looking, I imagine she wasn't thinking I was recording, but she probably thought I could be. But he's like, oh, it doesn't look like it's on. He's not even looking. It's probably not on. Then she went to either pepper spray me in the face or take some vape. I think it was a vape. I like to think. I did feel like a peppery spray on my left ear, but probably wasn't her. Something unrelated. I zoomed into 18 millimeters. You don't pretend you can handle this. So 120 frames per second became the norm, and then a couple people did the 240 frames per second, like Sony X3000 did it in a lower resolution. Didn't look the best, but it was okay. And then, like, the professional cameras started doing it. Fuji XS20, XT4 did it. It's like, boom. And then Sony A7S III did it first before XT4. My brain flipped those. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's now becoming normal and disappointing if companies don't have that. Nikon is stuck on 120 frames per second. It's utter trash. I don't understand it. Some companies just are not moving on. Even Olympus has done it. Single focus. I'm now hiding my douche tuber light. You got to move it, you douche tuber. So now that 240 frames per second is the norm and expected, we're moving beyond that now, right? Like 480 is next. Can't wait to see it. I wish companies would at least do a little burst. It could be done. If you can do unlimited 4K 120p, you can do HD 1000 frames for 5 seconds. But they don't think we need it? Or what? What's going on? Like, put it in the thing. I'm saying right now, we demand it. All of us. Me and you guys. Let's switch to the loser G9 Mark II to see how far we've fallen from grace. 2014 technology versus, wow, 9 years later? Is it better? No. Well, that's a sad excuse of an upgrade if I've ever seen one. Took you 9 years to do that? A little sharper, maybe? Where's the love? Oh, panty boy? So hot damn Akaso Brave. No, there's no stabilization in that mode. It's almost unusable. I doubt I'll even take it out of my house again. I wish GoPro and DJI would, like, get on board. Okay, let's up the, like, what else are we working on if it's not resolutions and frame rates? That's what we're going. Like, eventually it's 8K 1000 frames per second as the norm in your little APS-C budget model. Eventually we get there. The technology shrinks down, silicone mixed with copper and, like, zinc. It'll get you there. Follow the blueprint, assholes. Oh no. Everything's been revealed. All my secrets. Oh no. Oh, don't look at that lens. We're not ready for that. It's not even close to pointed at me now. So to camera manufacturers of the future, hear me now. Slow motion is nice. It's fun to slow down a moment and be creative. Once you slow it down enough, a little smile to a friend off in the distance becomes so much more than it ever was. Little moments that speed past you, you would never think of anything. But there's little subtle movements like, did he wink at me? A shy glance. Oh, in slow motion, that's something. So like, let's push some boundaries here and go for it. What else are we doing? Cinematic 24p footage of nothing? And let's have autofocus working in that mode. By the way, 480 frames per second in HD, autofocusing, auto-exposing. Because in my style of work, I'm not even looking at my subject. This is a new genre where it's like, don't look at me. And then you look, fuck, I was way too high on that, damn it. But like eventually you get the shot. It's like, yes. Where it's like, if I got the Free Fly Ember, things doing like 4K 600 frames per second or something, like amazing. But I would have this huge rig with a monitor and I'd have to manually focus and people would be looking at me like, sorry, just continue being magical. It wouldn't work. It has to be discreet. That's why the Sony a7S III still leads the industry. This is usually my setup when I go, the Zeiss 55mm 1.8. Full frame at 1.8, and it's just like, you're walking by, and like Sony will nail the focus, no matter what, as long as you're pointed in the general direction. It's only my framing that is ever off. It's never the camera's fault. It's just like, am I pointed too high? He's a little tall. Don't you know tall people die? Tall people eat too much food. So it's like, Sony, thank you for doing what you do. Now do it better sometime. You've released 5 cameras in 3 years that have only matched this. 480 frames per second in the a7S IV. I might look at you. Just promise me from day one that there will be no firmware updates ever and I will be on board with it. Just tell us, cut us off at the foot right when it happens, and then it won't bleed as much. So I thank you in advance, camera companies, for continuing to push the button on innovation. And who won the battle today? G9 or Blackmagic? Or Akaso Brave? Did Akaso win? What if I used the blue light as my key light instead, and the background things were backgroundish, and the audio was still really good? I'll leave. Do we need 490 frames per second soon? You let me know down below. And subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you in the next one.